Hello and welcome to Coffee Fusion and welcome to the 6-week Latte Art Bootcamp. So over the next 6 weeks, we're going to learn the fundamentals of what goes into producing consistently great latte art. We're going to learn all of the basic patterns, including hearts, tulips and rosettas, and even some patterns that combine multiple pour styles. Each week after watching the video, you'll have some homework. So if you're watching this series live as the series is released, you'll have a week gap in between. But if you're watching the series after it's released, make sure you take some time in between videos, practice the techniques you've learned in that video before you move on to the next one. Lastly, before we get started on this week's lesson, make sure you subscribe to the channel because I do a lot of different series and videos like this. There'll be lots of content for you in the future. Okay, so this week we're going to learn some of the fundamental things that go into good latte art before we break down any of the patterns. For espresso, you want to use freshly roasted coffee that's aged at least a week and no more than 3 or 4 weeks old. And when we extract that espresso, we want to have a nice consistent dose and yield, and we want to extract in about 26 to 32 seconds. Now, if you don't know how to extract consistently great espresso, I'd recommend you check out this video here, Extracting Great Espresso. It's one of the videos from my 6-week Home Barista Bootcamp, and it's well worth learning how to do that first before you try latte art. It's also super important to have really nice silky milk. When we're texturing that milk, we want to make sure we get that nice silky microfoam. So make sure you get that whirlpool going in early. Add a little bit of air into that milk, but don't add too much air. If our milk is too thin, then we won't be able to set the crema on our pattern and it'll be hard to even pour anything into the cup. But if our milk is too thick, then that frothy milk will just fall on top of the crema and it'll be hard to pour anything at all. Again, if you haven't seen my video, What the Froth, texturing silky milk from the 6-week Home Barista Bootcamp, definitely check that out for more tips on texturing your nice silky milk. Okay, so we've got quality espresso, we've got quality milk. Now before you start pouring any pattern, you want to knock your jug and give it a good swirl. Make sure that milk is nice and combined and is going to flow evenly into the cup. It's also good to give your espresso shot a little knock on the table and a little bit of a swirl, just to break up that crema a little bit. Make sure it will also flow nice and freely. Now for latte art, it's really important that you have a jug with a nice spout. You can have one which is a little bit more rounded, and that's going to make it easier for you to pour your hearts or your bulb style tulip patterns. Or you could have one with a sharper spout like this one, and this is going to make it easier to get that definition in those line style patterns like your rosettas. Now, as long as your jug has a fairly good spout, you should be able to pour something, but a better quality spout is going to make it easier for your latte art. So the biggest lesson we're going to learn today is how to set the crema. When we're pouring the milk into the espresso, we're going to hold the cup on a little bit of an angle. That will give us a nice deep area for us to pour the milk into. If we don't pour into the center of the espresso shot, we're going to splash out that crema, and then it's going to be really hard to pour a nice pattern with good contrast. This is a lot easier to do if you have a double shot extraction, but if you have a single shot, you can still set the crema really nicely. Just pour nice and evenly at first. Make sure you get that brown surface on top before you start pouring faster. So try this a few times. Make sure you pour from a little bit of a height, get that nice solid brown surface on top, and then just pour all the way to the top and fill up the cup and a nice brown surface on top. Now the basis of all latte art is just manipulating the height between the jug and the cup. If you pour from more of a height, the frothy milk in your jug is going to pierce below the crema and you're going to get that nice brown surface on top. And when you want to pour your pattern, you're moving that jug closer to the surface of the crema so the white appears on top. There are a couple of different styles of pouring with the jug, but essentially it's just manipulating that height. So your homework for this week is just to practice setting that crema and pouring that white blob on top. Don't try and do anything fancy. We're going to learn some extra steps over the next few weeks, but right now we want a nice brown surface with the white blob on top. I'd love to hear your feedback in the comments below of how you went with this lesson. And if you have an Instagram, you can send your photos to @thecoffeefusion so I can see how your latte art is progressing. I hope you've enjoyed this first lesson in the 6-week Latte Art Bootcamp, and these things are literally the basis of all latte art, so make sure you practice these steps before you move on to the next videos. If you're in need of some coffee to practice with and you live within Australia, grab some coffee from my website. The best blend for latte art is Keyboard Warrior. It's a great milk coffee, and if you want to try it out, you can use the code LATTEART for 20% off coffee. If you really want to support me with these kind of videos, the best thing you can do is check out the coffee subscriptions. You can start it with a free trial and I'll send a few samples your way so you can try my coffee. Of course, if you learned something in this video and you're keen for the whole series, press that like button and remember to subscribe so you see the future videos when they're released. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you're going to get heaps out of this latte art series, and I'll see you next week when we learn about hearts. Keep frothing!